Emma had never been the type to believe in supernatural things. She was logical, grounded, someone who always looked for a rational explanation. But everything changed when she received the gift. It arrived on her doorstep in a simple brown box with no return address. The handwriting on the tag was unfamiliar, but it was addressed to her. To Emma. May this bring you comfort. There was no sender's name, no hint of where it came from. Inside the box lay a plush teddy bear, soft, light brown, with black button eyes and a stitched-on smile. It looked innocent, even adorable. At first, she assumed it was from a friend. Maybe her ex-boyfriend, Jake, trying to win her back. He always sent random gifts when he felt guilty about something. But when she texted her friends and even Jake himself, they all denied sending it. Weird, she muttered, setting the bear on her nightstand. That night, Emma had the strangest dream. She was in a dark room, the walls stretching infinitely, the air thick with silence. She felt something watching her. As she turned, she saw two glowing eyes staring from the shadows. A voice, soft, almost childlike, whispered her name. Emma. She woke up with a gasp, her heart pounding. The room was dark except for the faint glow of her bedside lamp. She turned her head, and her breath caught in her throat. The teddy bear. It was no longer on the nightstand. Instead, it was sitting upright on her bed, facing her. Emma stared at it, her pulse racing. Did I move it in my sleep? She wondered. But no, she was sure she had left it on the nightstand. A chill crawled up her spine. She reached for the bear hesitantly, its stitched smile seeming wider than before. Maybe I'm just overthinking. She placed it back on the nightstand and tried to go back to sleep. But deep down, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. And it was only the beginning. The next morning, Emma tried to brush off the eerie feeling from the night before. It was just a dream. A weird dream, but nothing more, she told herself. She got ready for work, pushing thoughts of the teddy bear to the back of her mind. But as she grabbed her purse, she noticed something strange. The bear wasn't on the nightstand where she had placed it. It was sitting on her desk now, facing the door. Emma's stomach tightened. She lived alone, no pets, no roommates. Did I move it and forget? Maybe I was half asleep. She let out a nervous laugh, shaking her head. I'm being ridiculous. Still, she grabbed the bear and tossed it onto the bed. Stay there, she muttered, feeling silly for talking to an inanimate object. Work was a welcome distraction. By the time she got home that evening, she had convinced herself that it was just her imagination playing tricks on her. But the moment she stepped inside her apartment, she froze. The teddy bear was back on the nightstand. Emma's breath hitched. She knew for a fact she hadn't put it there. A cold wave of fear washed over her. Someone's messing with me. Her eyes darted around the room. The windows were locked, the door had been bolted when she left. There was no sign of a break-in. Slowly, she walked up to the bear, heart pounding. Its black button eyes seemed to stare straight into her soul. Swallowing hard, she picked it up and examined it. There was nothing unusual, just soft fabric, stuffing, and those lifeless plastic eyes. Maybe I'm sleepwalking, she whispered. She set the bear back down, this time shoving it into her closet. She shut the door firmly. Out of sight, out of mind. That night, she had the same dream. Darkness. Shadows stretching across an endless void. The whispering voice, closer this time. Emma. Her body felt paralyzed. She tried to move, to scream, but her limbs were frozen. The whisper grew louder, more urgent. And then. She jolted awake, gasping for air. Sweat clung to her skin. Her eyes darted around the room, panic rising in her throat. And then she saw it. The closet door was open. And the teddy bear was sitting on her pillow, inches from her face. Its stitched smile seemed wider. Emma's scream echoed through the empty apartment. Emma barely slept after that. Every time she closed her eyes, she felt as if something was watching her, something beyond the bear, beyond her own paranoia. She told herself there had to be a logical explanation. Maybe she had left the closet open. Maybe she had moved the bear herself in some kind of half-conscious daze. But deep down, she didn't believe that. The next morning, she was exhausted, but she forced herself to go about her day as normally as possible. She grabbed the teddy bear with shaking hands, stuffing it deep into a box in her closet. She even went a step further, she locked the closet door. There. Problem solved. But as the day went on, a sense of unease clung to her like a shadow. Every time she stepped into her apartment, she felt it. A pressure in the air, a chill in her bones. And then, as she sat on her couch that evening, scrolling through her phone, something caught her attention. A soft thump from the bedroom. Emma's breath hitched. She turned her head slowly, her heart pounding. The closet door, locked just hours ago, stood slightly ajar. "No," she whispered. She stepped closer, her pulse roaring in her ears. She reached out with trembling fingers and pulled the door fully open. The box where she had placed the teddy bear was sitting on the floor, its lid off. And the bear was gone. Emma whipped around, scanning the room. Then she saw it. Sitting in the middle of her bed. Its black button eyes gleamed in the dim light. Emma's stomach twisted into knots. She could hear her own breath, uneven and shallow. She took a step back. And then. The bear moved. Just a tiny shift, as if something inside it had breathed. Emma stumbled backward, barely choking down a scream. She grabbed her phone, her fingers fumbling to dial her best friend, Claire. The phone rang once, twice. "Hey, Emma. What's up?" Emma struggled to keep her voice steady. "Claire. I need you to come over. Now." There was a pause. "Are you okay?" I just need someone here," she said quickly. "Please." Claire must have heard the panic in her voice because she didn't argue. "Okay, I'm on my way." Emma hung up, her eyes never leaving the bear. She swore it was still breathing. 15 minutes had never felt so long. Emma sat frozen on the edge of her couch, her eyes locked on the bedroom door. She had left the teddy bear on the bed, but she couldn't shake the feeling that if she looked away for too long, it would move again. A knock at the door made her flinch. She rushed to open it, nearly pulling Claire inside. "Geez, Emma, are you okay?" Claire asked, taking in Emma's pale face and shaking hands. Emma didn't answer. She just grabbed Claire's wrist and pulled her toward the bedroom. "You have to see this," she whispered. Claire frowned but followed. When they reached the doorway, Emma hesitated. Her stomach clenched as she peeked inside. The teddy bear was right where she had left it. Motionless. Innocent. Claire crossed her arms. "Is this what you called me over for?" Emma swallowed hard. It moved, Claire. "I swear, it was breathing." Claire snorted. "You mean, like, you moved it?" "No. It moved on its own." Emma's voice cracked. "I put it in a box. In the locked closet. And when I came back, it was on my bed." Claire gave her a skeptical look. "Emma, you've been really stressed lately. Maybe you just forgot." "I didn't forget." Emma snapped, her frustration boiling over. "I locked it away. And this morning, it was on my pillow. I didn't put it there." Claire sighed. Okay. Let's say it did move. Maybe you're sleepwalking. Or maybe someone else has a key to your apartment. Emma shook her head violently. No one else has a key. And I don't sleepwalk. I know what I saw, Claire. Claire hesitated, then sighed again. All right. Let's prove this thing isn't haunted. She marched over to the teddy bear and picked it up. Emma tensed. Claire turned the bear over in her hands, squeezing it. See? Just stuffing and fabric. She lifted it to her ear. No ticking, no creepy hidden speaker. It's just a normal. She stopped. Emma's blood ran cold. What? Claire frowned, pressing her fingers into the bear's stomach. There's something inside it. Feels kinda hard, like. A sudden, muffled giggle came from inside the bear. Claire yelped and dropped it onto the bed. The giggle faded into silence. Emma and Claire stared at each other, their faces draining of color. Tell me you heard that, Emma whispered. Claire swallowed. Why yeah. I did. Emma reached out with trembling hands and grabbed the bear. She squeezed its stomach. Nothing. Claire let out a nervous laugh. Okay, that was freaky, but it's probably just a hidden sound box or something. Maybe it's voice activated. Emma shook her head. No. I've had this thing for 2 days, and it's never made a sound before. A deep, uneasy silence stretched between them. Then, suddenly, the teddy bear twitched. Emma screamed and flung it across the room. It hit the wall and slumped to the floor. Claire let out a shaky breath. Okay. That's not normal. Emma grabbed her friend's arm. You believe me now, right? Claire hesitated. The bear let out a quiet, distorted chuckle. Both girls bolted from the room, slamming the door behind them. Emma and Claire stood in the hallway, their breaths coming fast and shallow. The bedroom door remained shut, but the weight of what had just happened pressed down on them like a nightmare they couldn't wake from. What the hell was that? Claire whispered, rubbing her arms as if trying to shake off a chill. Emma shook her head. I don't know. But I told you, Claire. I told you something's wrong with that bear. Claire exhaled sharply. Okay. All right. Let's think logically. Maybe it's some kind of prank toy. Emma shot her a look of pure disbelief. A prank toy? A prank toy that moves by itself and laughs at us? Claire hesitated. I don't know. Maybe it's malfunctioning. Maybe. A soft thump came from behind the door. Both girls froze. Another thump. Then a slow, dragging sound, like fabric being pulled against the wooden floor. Emma clamped a hand over her mouth, biting back a scream. Claire grabbed her arm. Emma, we need to leave. Now. Emma nodded, her body stiff with fear. They backed away from the bedroom door, moving toward the front of the apartment. Then, suddenly, a loud bang rattled the door. Emma gasped. Claire swore under her breath. Another bang. Then another. As if something inside was throwing itself against the door. Emma fumbled for the front doorknob with trembling hands. Come on, come on. She twisted it. The door wouldn't budge. Emma's heart stopped. No. No, 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 she yanked harder, but the lock wouldn't turn. It stuck. Claire asked, her voice rising in panic. It won't open. Emma cried. It's like it's jammed. A sickening creak came from behind them. They turned just in time to see the bedroom door slowly swing open. The hallway light flickered, casting long, trembling shadows. The teddy bear sat in the doorway. Its head was tilted at an unnatural angle, its black button eyes gleaming in the dim light. And then it stood up. Emma and Claire screamed. The bear's small, plush limbs jerked unnaturally as it took a step forward, dragging its foot across the floor. Its mouth, stitched into a simple, innocent smile, seemed almost wider now, as if something inside it was stretching against the fabric. Emma grabbed Claire's wrist and pulled her toward the kitchen. "The window," she gasped. They ran, nearly tripping over themselves. Emma reached the kitchen and lunged for the window latch. It wouldn't open. Claire banged on the glass. "Are you kidding me? It's nailed shut." Emma's breath came in short gasps. It wasn't like this before. A slow, rhythmic tap, tap, tap echoed from the hallway. Emma turned, her vision blurring with terror. The bear was in the kitchen doorway now. It stood perfectly still. Watching. Waiting. Then it whispered. "Don't leave me, Emma." Emma's blood turned to ice. Claire's voice trembled. "Did that thing just—" Before she could finish, the kitchen light flickered, then died, plunging them into darkness. A cold, stuffed hand brushed against Emma's ankle. She lost her mind. Emma shrieked and kicked wildly, scrambling backward until her spine hit the counter. Claire grabbed her arm, yanking her to her feet. "Move! Now!" Claire shouted. They bolted for the hallway. The apartment was pitch black, but Emma didn't care, she just had to get away. Behind them, the teddy bear let out a slow, distorted giggle. Emma didn't dare turn around. She reached the front door and yanked at the handle again. Still stuck. She banged on it desperately. "Somebody help us. Please." Claire turned in frantic circles. "A knife. Something. We have to." A sound stopped them both. Soft. Slow. A whisper right behind them. "You don't love me, Emma." Emma's breath hitched. Claire swore under her breath, grabbing Emma's hand in a death grip. A sickening scrape sounded against the floorboards. The bear was moving again, dragging itself toward them. Claire spun, grabbing a heavy vase from the entry table. She didn't hesitate, she hurled it straight at the bear. Crash! The vase shattered on impact, knocking the bear onto its back. Silence. Emma's chest heaved. Did that do it?" Claire whispered. For a moment, it seemed like it had. The bear lay limp on the floor, unmoving. Then its head twitched. A grotesque, snapping sound filled the air as its limbs bent at unnatural angles. The bear twisted onto all fours like a broken puppet, lifting its head slowly. The fabric on its mouth ripped open. A wide, gaping grin of jagged, human-like teeth grinned back at them. Emma lost all control. She screamed, clutching her head as her knees buckled. "Make it stop." Claire yanked her up. "We have to go, now." They bolted toward the bathroom. Claire slammed the door shut and locked it just as something slammed against the other side. Emma collapsed against the sink, gasping for breath. Her vision swam. Her heartbeat roared in her ears. Claire was pale, her hands shaking. "Emma, what the hell is that thing?" Emma shook her head violently. "I don't know. I don't know." The pounding at the door stopped. Silence. A long, suffocating silence. Claire slowly stepped closer, pressing her ear to the wood. Maybe it. Bang! The door rattled violently. Emma shrieked, backing away. Claire stumbled, catching herself against the sink. Then, a new sound. Soft. Rhythmic. Scratching. Like tiny, stuffed fingers dragging down the door. Emma clutched her head, rocking back and forth. No, no, no. Claire grabbed her shoulders. Emma, look at me. Emma's wide, teary eyes met Claire's. You're not crazy, Claire said firmly. This is real. We're getting out of here. I promise. Emma's breath shuddered. How? The doors won't open, the windows are nailed shut. We'll break a window if we have to. A chilling giggle came from the other side of the door. Emma's nails dug into her palms. Her whole body trembled. She felt like her mind was slipping. She pressed her hands against her ears, trying to drown it out. Make it stop. Make it stop. Claire's voice was distant. Emma. The whispers slithered into her head. I'll always be with you, Emma. Something inside her snapped. Emma let out a guttural scream and lunged for the cabinet. She grabbed the first thing her hands found, Claire's hairdryer. Without thinking, she spun and hurled it at the mirror. Shatter. Glass exploded around them. The bathroom light flickered. And in the broken shards on the floor, Emma saw something that made her heart stop. The reflection of the bear. Standing right behind her. She turned. But there was nothing there. Emma's knees buckled. Oh my God. Claire pulled her up. We have to move. Now. A deep, guttural growl rumbled from behind the door. Emma didn't hesitate. She grabbed Claire's hand. And together, they ran. Emma and Claire ran blindly through the apartment, their bodies fueled by pure terror. The walls felt like they were closing in, the air thick and suffocating. Every shadow seemed to stretch toward them, every flickering light bulb cast shapes that looked like they were watching. The teddy bear's whispers slithered through the air. Emma, don't leave me. Emma stumbled, her breath ragged. Claire yanked her forward. Come on. We have to break a window. They crashed into the living room. Claire grabbed a metal lamp and swung it at the nearest window with all her strength. Crack. The glass fractured but didn't shatter. Claire cursed, raising the lamp again. A sudden force yanked it from her hands and sent it flying across the room. Both girls froze. The lamp hovered mid-air for a split second before dropping to the ground with a deafening thud. Then. The bear laughed. A sickening, distorted giggle filled the room. It wasn't coming from one place. It was everywhere. Emma clutched her head. Stop it. Get out of my head. Claire grabbed her shoulders. Emma, listen to me. We need to get out before. A low, creaking noise interrupted her. They turned. And saw the bear. It stood in the center of the living room. No longer small and stuffed, but taller. Its fabric skin stretched, bulging unnaturally. Its button eyes were glossy and wet, like something alive was staring out from inside. Its mouth, once stitched into a cute little smile, had split wider, revealing rows of jagged, human-like teeth. Emma's stomach lurched. The air around her felt wrong, like the walls were bending. The bear's mouth moved. You can't run, Emma. Claire shoved Emma toward the window. Try again. Break it. Emma grabbed a chair, lifted it with trembling arms, and hurled it at the glass. Smash. Shards exploded everywhere. Cold night air rushed in. Go. Claire screamed. Emma hoisted herself onto the windowsill, but something yanked her back. The bear's hand wrapped around her ankle. Its grip was ice cold. Emma screamed, thrashing wildly. Let go. Claire grabbed her arms, pulling with all her strength. Emma, fight it. The bear lurched forward, dragging Emma toward the floor. Its mouth stretched open wider. Emma's mind snapped. The whispers, the shadows, the teeth, her sanity was slipping through her fingers like sand. Emma. Claire's voice was distant now. Fight back. It's in your head. Emma's vision blurred. Her head throbbed. Then, suddenly, a sharp, piercing ringing filled her ears. A memory flashed in her mind. The night she received the bear. That boy. The one who gave it to her. What had he said? You'll never be alone again. Emma's stomach dropped. This thing, this monster, was never just a toy. It had been waiting for her. Waiting to break her mind. The realization sent a surge of rage through her. Emma kicked with all her strength. Her foot connected with the bear's face. Its grip loosened. Claire yanked Emma forward. And together, they fell out the window. The world spun. Air rushed past them. Then. Thud. They hit the frozen ground, rolling onto the snowy pavement. Emma gasped, clutching Claire as they scrambled to their feet. They looked up. The bear stood at the shattered window, watching them. It didn't move. Didn't follow. It just smiled. Emma's heart pounded. The whispers in her head began to fade. Claire grabbed her hand. Come on. We're getting help. Emma didn't argue. They turned and ran into the night, away from that cursed apartment. But deep inside her, Emma knew. This wasn't over. Not yet. The icy wind cut against Emma's skin as she and Claire sprinted down the darkened streets. Their breath came in ragged gasps, clouds of white fogging in the air. Snow crunched beneath their frantic steps, but Emma barely registered the cold. Her mind was a storm, a whirlwind of fear, confusion, and something deeper. A voice still echoed faintly in her head. You'll never be alone again. They reached the first open convenience store they could find. Claire burst through the door, dragging Emma with her. The cashier, a middle-aged man with a graying beard, looked up from behind the counter, startled. Hey, what the? Call the police. Claire gasped, doubling over, hands on her knees. The man hesitated. What happened? Emma's lips trembled. She wanted to speak, to tell him about the bear, the nightmares, the whispers, but how could she? It would sound insane. She looked at Claire, hoping she'd explain. Claire straightened, her hands still shaking. We were attacked. By who? Emma's pulse pounded. She opened her mouth, ready to say something, anything, but she couldn't. Because even now, standing in the bright, fluorescent glow of the store, she felt it. That lingering presence. It wasn't gone. The store clerk picked up the phone. I'll call the cops. Claire gave Emma a reassuring squeeze on the arm. It's over, she whispered. Emma wanted to believe that. She really did. But deep inside, she knew. It wasn't. The police arrived within 10 minutes. Emma and Claire recounted what they could, an intruder in the apartment, an unexplainable attack. They left out the details, the moving bear, the sinister whispers, because what good would that do? The officers asked them to wait as they dispatched a unit to Emma's apartment. 30 minutes later, one of the officers returned. His face was blank. We didn't find anything, he said. Emma's breath caught in her throat. Claire blinked. What do you mean? That thing, it was there. The officer shook his head. No signs of forced entry, no signs of struggle, nothing unusual at all. He hesitated before adding, Are you sure you weren't just imagining things? Emma felt a deep, sinking sensation in her gut. She turned to Claire, desperate for validation. But Claire, her strong, brave best friend, was silent. Claire. Emma whispered. Claire swallowed hard, avoiding Emma's eyes. Maybe it was, in our heads. Emma's world tilted. No. No, she knew what she had seen. What they had both seen. The bear. The whispers. The moving objects. It had been real. Hadn't it? The officer sighed. If you remember anything else, give us a call. He handed Claire his card, nodded, and walked out. Emma stared after him, her pulse roaring in her ears. Claire turned to her. Emma, Emma took a step back. You don't believe me. Claire looked pained. I don't know what to believe. Emma felt something shatter inside her. First the police. Now Claire. She was alone. Completely, terrifyingly alone. A hollow laugh echoed in her mind. I told you, Emma. You'll never be alone again. Her breath hitched. She turned sharply. And froze. In the reflection of the store's window. Behind her. A small, shadowy figure stood. A teddy bear. Its head tilted. Its stitched mouth curved into a smile. Emma squeezed her eyes shut. When she opened them, the bear was gone. But she knew. It would always be there. Waiting. Watching. Forever.